of British Columbians are out of work. There are not tens of thousands of jobs that these British Columbians can then move to. The fact of the matter is that Canadians, over 2.5 million Canadians, are accessing food banks. It is not getting easier or better for Canadians. It's getting harder under this Liberal government, and they should wake up. And they should see that their plan is not working, Mr. Speaker, because Canadians are not better off with them at the wheel.
So we're going to proceed to statements by members momentarily. I'll just tell the member that they'll have 8 minutes and 30 seconds of questions and comments the next time that the House considers this matter. Statements by members. Déclaration de député. The honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
I rise today to mark Philippines Independence Day and to celebrate Filipino Heritage Month across Canada. I was honoured to join many friends in the Filipino-Canadian community for the annual flag-raising ceremony at Filipino Plaza in the heart of Vancouver Kingsway. It was a proud celebration of Bayanihan, representing unity, cooperation, and selfless aid. Many thanks to the United Filipino-Canadian Associations of BC for organizing this fabulous event. More than 1 million Filipino Canadians call Canada home, and their contributions strengthen our nation economically, culturally, politically, and socially. In every vocation and profession, from healthcare, education, skilled trades, business, and public service, Filipino Canadians play an essential role in building our country. Their generosity, resilience, faith, and love of life enrich our society and inspire us all. To the Filipino Canadian community, thank you for everything you contribute to our world. Maligayang araw ang kalaayan, mabuhay.
Honourable member for Winnipeg North.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mabuhay. I can tell you, yesterday we had a wonderful ceremony. Yesterday, a flag raising on Parliament Hill. We also had a wonderful reception last night that was co-hosted with the Ambassador Chan Gonzaga and the Embassy, who did an outstanding job working with the Canada Parliamentary Friendship Group with the Philippines. Mr. Speaker, the Philippines is a part of Canada's very fabric. In the month of June, not only do we celebrate Independence Day for the Philippines, we also recognize just how important the Filipino-Canadian community, which is 1 million strong, Mr. Speaker, has an impact in a part of our fabric in every region of our great nation, Mr. Speaker. So as we have flag-raising ceremonies, as pointed out in Vancouver, we have them in Winnipeg, all sorts of celebrations. Everyone enjoy the month of June, and let's celebrate Filipino culture and heritage.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
In celebration of Seniors Month, I was pleased to join with MPP Steve Clark to host our first annual Seniors Expo. This week at New Hope Church in Brockville, in partnership with Senior Support Services, Lanark Leeds Grenville, we welcome more than 160 seniors and dozens of exhibitors. We heard from great presenters, including the Leeds Grenville Paramedic Service, the Brockville General Hospital's Hospital Home Program, the Brockville 50+ Activity Centre, the Stroke Network of Eastern Ontario, and Rideau Community Health Services dental programs, and many others. Complete with fitness breaks and lunch, this event was open to seniors at no cost. It was a wonderful way to bring our community together, share helpful resources that support seniors and their families, and recognize the incredible contributions of our seniors. I want to take this opportunity to thank the men and women who built our country and built our community. Happy Seniors Month.
The Honourable Member for Les Pays d'En-Haut.
Rise today to honor the heart and soul of music and theatre in Mourne Heights, and that heart is named Penny Rose. Penny came to us in the 60s and opened Rosie's Cantina, one of the first live music venues in our community where people would come from near and far to be entertained. Over the years, music has become a way of life in our town, and Penny has always been leading the way. Be it the Joyful Noise Choir Theatre in Mourne Heights and now our famous Superfolk Festival, Penny volunteered for it all. Now, Mr. Speaker, Mourne Heights music scene is best known for the Commons Bar and Le Studio, where bands like Rush, The Police, and Bryan Adams recorded some of their best music.
Classics.
But for the last 60 years, however, it's been Penny's work that has deeply left its mark. On July 2nd, Penny Rose will be 80 years old.
Wow.
She is still going strong and will host the biggest live music party that our town has seen in a long time. So from all of us here in the House of Commons, I wish the one and only Penny Rose a very happy
Penny. Go Penny. The honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
I want to extend my deepest sympathies to the family of Constable Taran Bali, who passed away tragically in the line of duty in Northern Ontario. Constable Bali was a member of the Dufferin OPP in my home riding of Dufferin-Caledon. I know the men and women who serve in the Dufferin OPP. They are incredibly dedicated, community-oriented officers. Constable Bali was described by his colleagues as a man of bravery, dedication, and incredible community service. Police officers come under incredible scrutiny and criticism these days, and yet they put on the uniform every day knowing that they might not come home to their loved ones. I want Constable Bali's family to know that the community of Dufferin-Caledon will never forget his service and his sacrifice to our community.
The Honourable Member for Ottawa Vanier Gloucester. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good news for the National Capital Region and Eastern Ontario. La Cité College received an investment of $1.6 million for a project under the Oral Health Access Fund. This investment will allow for the creation of a mobile dental clinic, which will offer services directly to the community, with a special focus on seniors and children to remedy issues accessing dental care.
2 dental technologists and 2 to 4 students from whom this initiative will provide a valuable hands-on internship experience. De plus, une salle de
What is more, an adapted dentist office will be created at La Cité College to better meet the needs of neurodivergent or special needs youth. Thanks to this initiative, more families will be able to access local dental care in a welcoming, inclusive, needs-adapted environment.
The engagement of the Government of Canada to make healthcare more accessible and equitable for all. Monsieur le Président, c'est ainsi.
Mr. Speaker, that is how we will build Canada strong.
Cambridge.
Mr. Speaker, 2 years ago, the Standing Committee on Veterans Affairs unanimously tabled a pivotal report, Invisible No More, the experiences of Canadian women veterans. That title means something only because more than 50 women made it true. They sat before committee and relived military sexual trauma, wounds inflicted at times by the very people who were supposed to stand beside them. They knew the cost, and they spoke anyway, for every woman who hasn't served yet and deserves better. Angel, a veteran and survivor of military sexual trauma, didn't testify, but she recognized herself in every word those women spoke. She wore the country's uniform with pride, and yet something happened in that uniform by someone who should have had her back. Those women kept their promise to Canada. 2 years later, Canada is still working on keeping its promise to them. To the women veterans with us today and watching from home, this wasn't a plea for sympathy. It was a blueprint. You don't owe us anything more. We owe you. Invisible no more, and not ignored again.
The Honourable Member for Kitchener-Conestoga.
I rise today to recognize an extraordinary community leader in Kitchener-Conestoga, Mr. Martin Burr. For decades, Martin has worked tirelessly to ensure those in need have a safe, affordable place to call home. As founding member of Menno Homes, which is now known as Beyond Housing, he built a legacy of compassion, inclusion, and service that continues to strengthen our community. This year, as Beyond Housing marks its 25th anniversary and Martin celebrates his 87th birthday, he's preparing for his final Outspoken Bike-a-thon, a community event uniting riders, sponsors, and supporters committed to affordable housing. Over the years, through this ride, Martin has raised more than $387,000 with a goal of reaching $500,000. Proceeds will support a 30-unit accessible apartment in Elmira. Martin's leadership has inspired countless people across Waterloo Region and reminds us the difference one person can make. So, on behalf of a grateful community in Kitchener-Conestoga, I thank him and wish him every success in his final ride. I'll see you tomorrow, Mr. Burr.
The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, we may be the only G20 country in a recession, but it's because Liberals are throwing taxpayer money out the windows. The Prime Minister has spent almost $1 million in just 1 year on airline meals on just 14 flights. Here's the facts. May 16th to 19th, Ottawa to Rome, $93,780 in food. That's a fact. November 18th to 24th, 2025, Ottawa to Athens via $159,781 in food, and that's a fact. January 5th to 7th, 2026, Ottawa to Paris, $74,661 in food. That's a fact. January 13th to 22nd, Ottawa to Zurich, $175,248 in food, in luxury meals, and that's a fact. What we're witnessing is obvious. It's not that we don't have enough money, it's that we don't have enough respect for Canadians. The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, on June 12th, I'm buying Québécois. To celebrate this official day, I would like to offer you an incredible stay. The Auberge Saint-Mathieu in Saint-Mathieu-du-Parc is waiting for you with its exceptional restaurant. Last year, they were awarded their first Michelin Green Star. This year, the Auberge can celebrate once again. It has received its first Red Star from the famous Michelin Guide. These honors recognize not just its culinary excellence and refined flavors, but also its deep commitment to sustainable gastronomy. In this country estate surrounded by a picture-perfect forest, Chef Sami Benabed, who was awarded the Michelin Award for Most Promising Young Chef Quebec 2026, cooks up a locavore menu combining Quebecois barbecue, spices, and citrus in perfect harmony. Congratulations to the entire team for this inspiring communion of flavor, land, and respect for the environment.
The Honourable Member for University Rosedale.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize an institution that has helped tell and shape the stories of multicultural Canada for 60 years, Chin Radio. Founded in 1966 by the late Johnny Lombardi, a proud son of Italian immigrants, Chin gave a voice to newcomers from around the world and helped pioneer multicultural broadcasting in Canada. Today, under the equally visionary leadership of his son, Lenny Lombardi, Chin continues to build on that remarkable legacy, broadcasting to over 100 cultural communities in more than 50 languages. As Toronto prepares to celebrate the Taste of Little Italy Festival this weekend, we honor the Lombardi family's lasting contributions. To Lenny and everyone at Chin Radio on this 60th anniversary of this remarkable institution, thank you, grazie, for helping to build an inclusive, vibrant Canada.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
Well, it is my great pleasure to rise in the House today to extend congratulations to the town of Picture Butte on its 100th anniversary. For a century, Picture Butte has been shaped by the values that define rural Canada: hard work, family, and community spirit. What began as a small prairie settlement marked by the establishment of its post office has now grown into the livestock feeding capital of the entire country. And that title reflects more than just an industry. It reflects generations of farmers, ranchers, workers, and families whose dedication has helped feed Canadians and strengthen Southern Alberta's economy. From its farms and local businesses to its schools, its churches, and its volunteers, Picture Butte continues to represent the very best of Southern Alberta. To everyone who has built, who has served, and who has strengthened this community over the past century, I wish to extend my sincere gratitude. Your legacy is one of vision, determination, and generosity. As the Member of Parliament for Lethbridge, congratulations on 100 years.
The Honourable Member for Barossa. Mr. Speaker, you know what? Many people rise each day to claim they're specialists on artificial intelligence. I meet with a number of experts on AI, and I read this one book by an esteemed expert. The book turned out to be the exceptional work of an entrepreneur from my region, Mr. Patrick Chanel, the co-founder of Conquer AI and an AI strategy specialist. He has almost 30 years of experience in major Quebecois companies. In his book, Enterprise AI Driven, Mr. Chanel proposes a concrete framework based on 3 axes: knowledge management, knowledge sovereignty, and human-centered AI governance. At a time when our country is developing an AI strategy, I think it's important to recognize entrepreneurs like this one who have reminded us that humans must be at the center of all we do. So I would like to recognize Mr. Chanel's work to the debate on AI and for bringing together politics, innovation, and industry.
Disbury.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the verdict is in. The Prime Minister is in way over his head. He's the only leader, not just in the G7, but in the G20 to lead his country into a recession. But what does this mean practically? Since the Prime Minister won't stand in this place and answer questions about his record, well, I'll tell you. 2 in 5 Canadians struggle to put food on the table. 60% of Canadians feel anxious about their personal finances. 40% lose sleep over how far they can stretch their paycheck. 38% face food insecurity. And last year, a whopping 2.2 million Canadians visited a food bank in a single month. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister's office spent nearly $1 million in the last year alone on luxury in-flight catering, including $175,000 alone in one trip last November. That catering bill would have been enough to feed a Canadian family for 55 years. Every dollar spent on luxury catering is a dollar that cannot go towards lowering taxes, building homes, improving public safety, or helping Canadians put food on their own table. Conservatives are here and ready to get to work. Where's the Prime Minister?
The honourable member for Hull Aylmer.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the contributions of Joanna Mizgala, Chief Curator of the House of Commons, who will leave the House at the end of September. After a few months after she started working in the House, Ms. Mizgala showed leadership and literally grace under actual fire, keeping a group of parliamentary guides calm as shots rang out and she led them to safety. As Speaker, I saw her love and passion firsthand as she worked to preserve our history and heritage for all Canadians.
She helped remind us of our past through interviews and reports on key moments, like the 100th anniversary of the Parliament Hill fire. She also marked key events from our history, like the 20th anniversary of Nunavut and the 150th anniversary of Confederation. Furthermore, she worked to create a room of remembrance in West Block.
Many of us know her personally as she shared her expertise widely. We thank her for her remarkable service and wish her every success in her next chapter. Thank you, Joanna.
On behalf of all members, congratulations and all the best, Johanna. The honourable member for Elgin St. Thomas, London South.
Mr. Speaker, Canadian food banks continue to see record increases. Back home, the St. Thomas Elgin Food Bank's demand has tripled in just 5 years. Canadians don't need liberal talking heads on TV or members across the aisle to tell them that we are in a recession. They feel it every day trying to feed their families. 2 out of 5 Canadians are struggling to put food on the table. 60% are feeling anxiety about their personal finances. 40% of Canadians are literally losing sleep, wondering how they're going to make ends meet. And at the same time, this Prime Minister has spent nearly $1 million on in-flight catering over the last year. Catering bill that could feed a Canadian family for years. Clearly, when the Prime Minister told Canadians to make sacrifices, he was talking about common people feeding their families and not his mile-high caviar and champagne menu. Why is it that we always get lectures and gaslighting from the elitist net zero banker class while ordinary people who build the country are the ones who have to pay the price?
The honourable member for Ottawa West Nepean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is the 2nd anniversary of the tabling of the ACFA Committee report, Invisible No More, on the experiences of women veterans. The report made 42 recommendations and emphasizes the need to address health and research gaps, economic and social challenges, military sexual trauma, and the systemic barriers for women in getting the services that they are entitled to. Behind every recommendation was a woman who came forward to share her story. Stories of service, sacrifice, resilience, and too often feeling unseen. Many of those women are here in Parliament today. And as co-chair of the Parliamentary Friendship Group for Veterans, we will be hosting a roundtable discussion this afternoon with the Invisible No More project and the progress made on the recommendations and what remains to be done. As we mark this anniversary, I thank all women veterans. We see you and we hear you. Thank you.
Oral questions. Questions orales. The honourable member for Wellington, Halton Hills North.
Mr. Speaker, Canada mourns the loss of Constable Mark Pinizotto. Here's what the globe has reported. A search warrant executed yesterday related to the shootings at a synagogue and the U.S. consulate. U.S. prosecutors linked these shootings to an IRGC-backed terrorist network behind 18 attacks in the U.S., Canada, and Europe. A year ago, the government identified nearly 30 Iranian regime operatives that should be deported. Since then, only one has been deported. What actions is the minister taking to protect Canadians from IRGC operatives on Canadian soil?
Good question.
Parliament Secretary, Minister of Public Safety.
Monsieur le Président, merci pour la question.
Thank you for the question. I would like to thank the honourable colleague. The government has undertaken every measure, and we take the situation very seriously. We've evaluated 18,000 visas from Iran. Every man of serving age were examined, re-examined. We carried out 280 investigations, and we've concluded that 30 Iranian residents could perhaps be sent back to Iran.
North.
I appreciate that the government has done a lot of analyses, but
of Constable Mark Pinizotto is not an isolated incident. Canadians are afraid. People are shooting bullets at synagogues, community centres, businesses, and now the U.S. consulate in Toronto. Public safety is now a national security matter. Canadians deserve answers. What new actions is the government taking to protect Canadians and foreign diplomats from IRGC operatives operating here in Canada?
Just the left.
Parliament Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I want to extend my deepest condolences to the family and the loved one of Constable Pinizotto, as well as to all the Toronto Force Services officers. Yeah. Constable Pinizotto was killed while participating in an investigation relating to multiple shootings in Toronto, including the shooting of the U.S. consulate. Updates will be provided as more information is available, and we will know more in the next day as the investigation progresses, and we will make this information.
Yeah, member for Wellington Hills North.
Mr. Speaker, U.S. prosecutors have linked the U.S. consulate and synagogue shootings to an IRGC terrorist network. In 2023, Global News reported that upwards of 700 regime-linked associates could be operating in Canada. A year ago, the government said that nearly 30 Iranian regime operatives were here in Canada that should be deported. Since then, reports indicated only one has been deported. Can the government confirm if any more than one individual has been deported in the last year?
Parliament Secretary, Minister of Immigration.
Yesterday in this House, Mr. Speaker, we heard from the Conservatives, we heard from the government, and in a rare moment of unity, we expressed sympathy with what's happened. We condemned what has happened, and we continue to condemn what has happened. Mr. Speaker, the honourable member knows very well that the IRGC has been listed as a terrorist entity since 2024 in this country, and we will continue to act in accordance with public safety always, Mr. Speaker. Investigations on visas are ongoing as well. We'll continue to do everything we have to do to keep Canadians safe. That's what we'll do.
Young member for Wellington Hills North.
Mr. Speaker, a year ago, the Prime Minister said the PRC's foreign interference was the greatest threat to the security of Canada. And now the government has a strategic partnership with the PRC. A year ago, the government said that nearly 30 Iranian regime-linked operatives were here in Canada that should be deported. A year later, only one has been deported. How can Canadians believe that this government is treating foreign interference seriously and taking actions to protect them here on Canadian soil?
Here, here.
Parliament Secretary.
We continue to entrust law enforcement, in particular the men and women of the Canada Border Service Agency, to do what is necessary to keep Canadians safe. As I said before, since 2024, the IRGC has been recognized as a terrorist entity, and everything we do will be in accordance with public safety, Mr. Speaker. Individuals who break the law are absolutely the focus of this government and the CBSA, and they can be deported.
Order!
The honourable member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our thoughts go out to the Constable. 2 in 5 Canadians are struggling to put food on the table. Food banks are breaking records, and workers are living in caravans because they can't afford housing. Yet, the Prime Minister continues with the extravagant spending and inflationary policies that have plunged Canada into a recession, making it the only G20 country to do so. Why does he refuse to acknowledge that his choices are causing Canadian families to suffer? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, I have good news for my colleague. The Prime Minister yesterday announced a Canadian strategy for food safety. 4 pillars: investing in our infrastructure on a regional basis to increase competitivity and choice, further processing here in Canada, increasing production all year round, and reducing red tape. That's how we bring more Canadian food on our plates and to reduce prices at the supermarket. The Honourable Member. Mr. Speaker, this Liberal government has been here for 11 years and they're still putting plans that they're just thinking about and analysing. But the Canadian people are suffering in the meantime. Whilst 2.2 million Canadians are relying on food banks, 38% are facing food insecurity, and families are spending more than 120% of their income on housing and groceries. The Liberals are continuing with their inflationary spending. Mr. Speaker, why does the Prime Minister refuse to admit that his policies have created this cost of living crisis? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, my colleague knows full well that the Canada Food Strategy will reduce the cost of food. In particular, we'll invest $1 billion for more processing here in Canada because we know that our products are often sent abroad for processing, but now we will invest in the processing industry here, giving more choice and more Canadian food in our supermarkets and on our plates, and it will make groceries much more affordable for Canadian families. The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, the reform of the New Horizons for Seniors programme is threatening hundreds of community projects. Organisations have barely 1 month to register as a business and obtain a registration number, then submit their projects. Otherwise, they will be disqualified. Yesterday, the Secretary of State for Seniors responded to this concern by telling them, well, sort it out yourselves. There's plenty of time left. The 14th of July may as well be tomorrow for these volunteers that have no resources. Will the government delay its reform instead of looking down on our community organisations?
Mr. Speaker, we announced these changes to the New Horizons for Seniors program almost a month before the applications opened up. And we made these changes requiring the CRA business number to ensure the integrity of the program. And here's what CanAge has to say about these changes. They've said that they are pleased to see this important step to ensure the integrity of the program. They believe that the simplified grant format, ease of reporting requirements, and significant supports available for the community-based organizations ensures this program remains accessible and inclusive.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, they really must have never dealt with this Canada Revenue Agency or Services Canada to think that it's that simple. Here we have volunteers who look after seniors, not experts in bureaucracy. All we're asking the Minister is to postpone the reform until the organisations that can register are actually able to do so, and to ensure that other smaller local organisations that cannot register are not unfairly disqualified. Is a little empathy for our volunteers too much to ask?
Mr. Speaker, these changes are important to ensure the integrity of the program, but we also want to make sure that all of the wonderful senior servicing organizations across Canada have the support that they need. And that is why Service Canada has provided additional resources to ensure that signing up for the business number is easy. There's a 15 to 30-minute process to make sure that that happens online, but there's also supports available to help them over the phone. But more than that, there's supports through their local MP's office. If that member had attended our sessions, he would know that.
The Honourable Member for Bournois, Salaberry-Soulanges, Huntington. This government lacks empathy for seniors and community organisations with its rushed reforms of New Horizons. Its attitude is jeopardising hundreds of projects that promote the active participation of seniors and break their isolation. The federal government should thank the volunteers who dedicate themselves day in, day out to these projects instead of treating them like potential fraudsters. All these organisations want is for the government to delay its reform to ensure that seniors aren't left by the wayside. Will the government grant their request by delaying the reform?
Mr. Speaker, we have heard from seniors organizations across this country applauding the changes that we've made to the New Horizons for Seniors program, ensuring that we've doubled the amount available to senior servicing organizations, but also ensuring the integrity of the program for years to come. This was one of the very few grants left in the Government of Canada that did not have these requirements. And this will ensure for years to come that this program is something seniors can rely on.
Member of Richmond Centre, Marple.
Mr. Speaker, CTV reports seniors in Richmond Centre, Marple are sleeping in Tim Hortons because they cannot afford a place to live, while the Prime Minister spends nearly $1 million on luxury catering in his taxpayer-funded aircraft. Canada is the only G20 country in recession. Canadians cannot afford food, rent, or housing. Why does this Prime Minister refuse to accept the fact that his policies are failing Canadians?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, seniors across this country know that they can rely on this Liberal government to support them and have their backs. While it is heartbreaking to read about what is happening to some of these seniors, including in Richmond, that party over there would do nothing for them. They would walk away from the problem and say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. What we are doing is providing a social safety net, including old age security, the groceries and essentials benefit, and the newly announced food security strategy. But more than that, we're building over 500,000 homes a year.
Member for Richmond Centre, Marple.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is seeing a growing homeless senior population. Emergency shelters are overflowing, and seniors are saying that they do not feel safe staying in them. After working in their entire lives, seniors surviving on a pension should not be sleeping in restaurants or searching for a safe place to spend the night. Canadians deserve better than this Liberal-made affordability crisis. Will this Prime Minister reserve his costly policies that create this crisis so Canadians can afford to live again?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs.
Mr. Speaker, maybe that Member of Parliament wants to look at the voting record of his party. In fact, they have fought against seniors. They have fought against increases to OAS. They have fought against increases to GIS, very important supplements to seniors' income. Mr. Speaker, every step of the way, as we've given seniors the support and the dignity they need, they have voted against those measures, Mr. Speaker. It is shameful to hear them get up in this House and talk about supporting seniors when they could very easily lend their hand to the work.
Member for Regina-Wascana.
Mr. Speaker, of all the countries in the G20, Canada is the only one in a recession. And it's no mystery why. The Liberals' inflationary spending, red tape, and anti-development policies created this recession and cost of living crisis. It's not global forces, it's Liberal choices. Why can't this Prime Minister understand that Canadians can't afford to make ends meet, that his costly policies are driving the G20's only recession, and that his policies are failing Canadians?
That's right.
Well done.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Thank you very much. And again, Mr. Speaker, will take no lessons from the members opposite on how to grow the economy. They have been here collectively 51,000 days. That's how long the Conservatives from Saskatchewan have sat here and have absolutely done nothing to help Saskatchewan or our Canadian economy. We are grappling, Mr. Speaker, with tariffs, trade uncertainty, conflicts. But the work will continue, Mr. Speaker. Since September, we have created over 164 new jobs in this Canadian economy.
The member for Regina-Wascana. Order.
Mr. Speaker, as usual, the Liberal member from Saskatchewan doesn't know what he's talking about. I have been here for a lot less than 10 years, and before I was elected, a Liberal MP represented my riding. During that time, the Liberals gave us the carbon tax, the No More Pipelines bill, and the West Coast tanker ban, which led to thousands of job losses in the Saskatchewan oil patch. Wow. On the rare occasion when this member does attend a cabinet meeting, will he tell the Prime Minister to reverse his costly policies so that Canadians can afford to live again?
Well, Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Just for correction, Mr. Speaker, we have created 164,000 new jobs since September. And Mr. Speaker, the member from Regina mentions a great leader from Saskatchewan. And Mr. Speaker, any day of the week, I will compare Ralph Goodale's record to the entire Conservative caucus from Saskatchewan any day of the week, Mr. Speaker. And I want to point out, Mr. Speaker, that he has done more in his time as MP than the entire Conservative caucus. I want to repeat that again.
The honourable member for Yellowhead.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is the only G20 country with a Prime Minister to take the nation into recession. Full-time workers are living in RVs and trailers because they can't afford homes. Families are spending more on food and rent than they are earning. People are making impossible choices just to survive. At the same time, every single day, we learn about another instance of wasteful spending of this Prime Minister that exceeds even Justin Trudeau's record. Will the Prime Minister finally reverse the costly Liberal policies that caused the recession?
Yes.
The Honourable Secretary and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, we've seen the Canadian economy prove to be much more resilient than anticipated. We had $11.5 billion less of a deficit. The economy in the last job numbers added 88,000 jobs, 800% exceeding expectations, recovering 80% of job losses due to the conflict, the trade war with the United States. That's good news for our country, but it's not the only good news, Mr. Speaker. We also had 1.5% increase in consumer spending. We have wages outpacing inflation for every month this government has been in power. That's good news for Canada.
The honourable member for Yellowhead.
This Liberal Prime Minister is the only G20 leader to take his nation into recession, and Canadians are paying the price. The average family now works 160 days a year just to pay taxes. It means people work until this week just to pay the government before they can actually start earning for themselves. At a time when families are struggling, the Liberals keep spending, borrowing, wasting more taxpayer dollars. Why do the Liberals refuse to admit that their costly policies have driven Canada into recession and are failing Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, if Conservatives are so concerned with supporting Canadians' affordability and the economy and wanting to keep people employed and supported, then why did they spend 25 hours this week filibustering a bill that supports workers across Canada? That bill has tax deductions for the labor mobility tax deduction, which supports workers to be able to travel for work and puts $6,000 more in those workers' pockets every single year. Moving forward, we see job numbers going up, especially in the skilled trades in this country, due to our government.
The honourable member for Langley Township, Fraser Heights.
Well, the high-flying Prime Minister is racking up $1 million debt for luxury in-flight catering. Many Canadians are struggling just to put food on the table. 2.2 million Canadians went to a food bank in 1 month last year alone. But the Prime Minister, well, he's living the high life, even though he is leading the only G20 country into a recession. So will the Prime Minister reverse his failed policies that are causing this food affordability crisis so that Canadians can afford to live again?
The Honourable Secretary of the Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I didn't think they would have the guts to ask a question on that basis, given that we just found out that the leader of the Conservative Party squandered over $8 million over us anyway. You know, you want to talk about accountability in terms of leaders' expenses? I think we should look in the mirror on the other side, where you'll witness massive abuse of tax dollars coming from the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, on Thursday, 70 scientists from 17 countries updated the IPCC's climate change data. The Paris Agreement's global warming target is no longer achievable. Sea levels continue to rise at twice the previous rate, and the number of days of extreme marine heat has tripled. And what is to blame? As usual, fossil fuels. What is the government doing? Approving new pipeline and new gas pipelines without an environmental assessment. How can the Liberals follow the Prime Minister in this madness?
Environment. Mr. Speaker, we can't build a clean Canada if we're not working together. We're thinking differently, strategically, to deliver the results for Canadians. We've introduced new methane regulations. We've brought Alberta to the table. We've actually brought Canada's largest emitting province to the table. We're also recently launching our clean electricity strategy to double our grid in the next number of years. It's something that we've promised Canadians. We're going to give this to Canadians today, tomorrow, and for future generations. And that's why I'm proud to stand on this side of the aisle.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister doesn't listen to science on the environment, just as he doesn't listen to his former environment ministers, just as he doesn't listen to his carbon neutrality advisory group, whose members have resigned, just as he doesn't listen to even his own MPs, according to the media. He listens to no one except the interests of American oil and gas company owners. He's concentrating all power in his own hands to build pipelines that line the pockets of Americans. If this is the Liberals' strong Canada, do they realise that we're going to pass on that? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
On top of what I just said, we also released the nature strategy. We're going to be protecting 30% of Canada's lands and waters by 2030. In fact, about 2 weeks ago, I went to Klemtu on the coast of British Columbia, where I was standing with the Minister of Environment and Climate Change, where we announced with 7 First Nations in the province of British Columbia to protect over 6,700 square kilometres of coast. That is equivalent to 1.5 times the size of Banff National Park and larger than Prince Edward Island, Mr. Speaker.
Wow. The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, we know what the Liberals do. $141 billion in new spending, a $67 billion deficit, and a budget that repeats the word investment 623 times, but that spends without counting. Canada is the only G20 country in a recession because of those decisions, Mr. Speaker. 6,000 Quebecers wrote to me, and their main message is clear. The cost of living is crushing them. After 11 years of Liberal decisions that hamstrung our economy and that's put us into a recession, when will the Liberals admit that their plan isn't working? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, that is exactly what we've been doing for the last 12 months. We recognise that we're in a very complex situation because of the tariff war and general geopolitics, and that is the reason for which we've implemented policies that will lead to a diversification of our economy. Mr. Speaker, I would also like to mention to the colleague for this weekend, it would be nice if he could perhaps consult the CD Howe Business Cycle Council to get a definition, a real definition of what's going on. The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Well, it's easy just to point fingers at others, but when we see a Prime Minister spending $159,000 for in-flight meals for a single trip, we understand why those decisions have led us off a recessionary cliff. Quebecers count every single dollar when they go to the supermarket. Liberals are spending Canadians' money like it's monopoly money. When will the government finally respect taxpayers' money and start helping them instead of just taxing them to fund their ideological projects for the Liberal Pharaoh?
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite should recognize that the expertise of the International Monetary Fund and the OECD is well recognized across the globe. They say that Canada's economy has the strongest fiscal position in the G7 and is expected to have the second highest growth. That's good news for our country, Mr. Speaker. I know it sounds like bad news to Conservatives, but that's good news for Canada. We have the fiscal capacity, and we're using it to invest in the growth of our economy, to make sure we have prosperity for future generations. That's good-paying jobs for Canadians for generations.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint-Laurent-Cabenrac. Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister has been leading this country for a year, but it's only gotten worse here in Canada under his international work. Under this Prime Minister, Canada is the only G20 country. Canada, rather, is the only G20 country in recession. Inflationary spending, bureaucracy, and anti-development policies have caused this recession, and even worse, has led to this cost of living crisis. When can we expect concrete results for Canadian families? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Once again, Mr. Speaker, I would like to suggest my Conservative colleagues to this weekend have a read of the C.D. Howe Institute Business Cycle Council's definition and a better knowledge of what's happening now in the Canadian economy. Beyond that, Mr. Speaker, I would also like to mention to this House that Canada's interest rates in the short term and the long term are stable. What does that mean? It means that our financial markets have full trust in Canada's economy, full trust in our management of Canada's economy by the Canadian government.
The Honourable Member. Mr. Speaker, I hope that the Parliamentary Secretary will spend part of his time this weekend looking at Stats Canada documents saying that over the last 4 quarters under this new Prime Minister, we've had 3 negative quarters. That's the truth. And the reality is that Canada has the worst food inflation of G7 countries. The other reality is that 2.2 Canadians are having to rely on food banks to eat. That's the reality. The Prime Minister said, you know, I'll be judged by the cost of groceries after I'm elected. Why is the cost going up when he's spending $1 million to eat on an airplane? Well, Mr. Speaker, there's a lot to unpack there. Let's start with what I think is essential when it comes to statistics. Let's talk statistics. What the stats say is that in May, we created tens of thousands of jobs, including full-time ones. The majority of those jobs were in construction. That means things are getting built. 27,000 new construction jobs. The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' out-of-control spending has plunged Canada into a recession. Canadians are working hard just to put food on the table. And the Prime Minister is treating himself to luxuries at taxpayers' expense. $1 million on food for just 14 flights. This is what he's enjoying, Mr. Speaker. Normandy butter, worth almost $600. Creme brulee, over $4,000. Chocolate mousse, $3,800. $17,000 worth of salmon for just 3 flights. Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister please show some respect for our taxpayers? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, I had the opportunity to tour Quebec last summer and meet a lot of producers in my colleague's region. I can tell you one thing. Farmers and producers there are very happy with the Canada food strategy, because one way to make food more affordable for Canadian families is processing more food right here in Canada. And that is exactly what our $3.2 billion investments are for. We are making those investments in the food supply chain in Canada and across Canada and in Quebec.
Mr. Speaker, Canada's hearts are broken at the loss of 2 of our frontline police officers, 2 brave individuals who gave their lives protecting our communities. Our frontline officers put themselves in harm's way every single day to keep us all safe. And this tragedy is being deeply felt across the entire policing community and by all Canadians. Can the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety speak to the courage and sacrifice of these 2 officers?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I was heartbroken to learn about Toronto Police Officer Mark Pinizotto, who was killed in the line of duty yesterday. My heart is with his family and loved ones. With an 18-year stellar record, Mark was known as someone who was courageous, respected, and a man who put others before himself. His death comes only days after OPP Constable Tyrone Bally, who was also killed in the line of duty. Mr. Bally was known as someone who just wanted to help others. To all our frontline officers, thank you for the work you do each day and every day to keep all Canadians safe. We appreciate your service. Thank you.
Now, member for Similkameen, South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Mr. Speaker, $300 million tax dollars wasted on prescribed IT. Liberal members of the Health Committee have refused every request to answer why or how. The Minister of Health and the CEO must testify. Canadians want to know how their tax dollars were wasted on this boondoggle. Will the Liberal minister agree it's time to stop the secrets, keep the cameras on, and investigate prescribed IT in public?
Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the member knows, the minister has answered this question many times in question period and many times during committee work. And we have been very open and transparent. Infoway has dismissed the CEO. We supported that decision. And we are also reviewing the Infoway mandate to make sure they align with opening up health data for Canadians. And the funding decision will be made after the review. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member Smoking in South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Mr. Speaker, I take that member more seriously if she didn't keep turning the cameras off and voting to seal committee records for 30 years. When we call for an audit, Conservatives have been clear we'll work through the summer to get a full accounting on $300 million wasted on prescribed IT. But they must leave the cameras on. Canadians want to know, will they hear about prescribed IT on Tuesday? Or will the Liberal Parliamentary Secretary turn the cameras off again?
Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the Conservative Farm Outrage, we're working hard on behalf of Canadians. And talking about committee, I'm glad that member brought it up because that party has spent over 20 hours obstructing a Liberal motion to study HIV in Manitoba. How can they claim they care about Canadians' health when they block motions like that? I think Canadians can see the difference.
Order. Member Red Deer.
Mr. Speaker, the $300 million Liberal cover-up continues. Liberals at the Health Committee continue blocking the investigation into prescribed IT and hoping Canadians forget about the scandal that's turning into a possible contempt of Parliament. Even the Liberals were frustrated when they didn't get answers from disgraced former CEO Michael Green. But then the Prime Minister yelled, "Be quiet!" and the cover-up began. So when will the Liberals at Health Committee find their spine and finally end the cover-up?
The Honourable Parliamentary Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think Canadians can see how the Conservative are behaving in the House and on committee. With them filibustering important motions like studying HIV, the HIV public health crisis in Manitoba, we can see the difference, and I think Canadians can too. Yeah.
Member York Durham.
So far in 2026, the U.S. Customs Authority has blocked 1,198 shipments worth about $75 million on concerns with forced labor. I know this because the U.S. authorities make their data publicly available. I checked it this morning. In contrast, the Liberal government does not. And when I asked for this information at the Standing Committee on International Trade, I received a written response that said the government is, quote, unable to provide the requested information. If the U.S. authorities can make their data publicly available to see, why can't the Liberal government?
Parliament Secretary, Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me be clear. Canada and the United States share the goal of keeping goods produced through forced labor out of our supply chains. Canada already has strong protections in place, and we will further action to strengthen them through new legislation. We will continue to work closely with our partners to uphold high labor standards and ensure fair, rules-based trade. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for York Durham.
Mr. Speaker, the issue is not the law, whether the current law or any subsequent law the government may introduce. The issue is the Liberal government's complete and utter negligence in enforcing the current law. And that, now they've been caught. And that failure is threatening our entire economy with new tariffs. The U.S. regularly blocks shipments. Last year, they blocked shipments from the world's largest bicycle manufacturer, Giant Manufacturing Co., Mr. Speaker. Those bicycles are available in Canada today. 2 stores in Ottawa, 3 in the Toronto region. Can the government confirm for the House whether or not those bicycles available today were made with forced labor?
The Parliament Secretary for Foreign Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canada has been taking concrete action to combat forced labor through fighting against forced labor and child labor in Supply Chains Act, which Liberal government passed in 2024. Under this act, government institutions and businesses must report on the risks of forced and child labor in their supply chains and outline the steps they are taking to address them. This is about increasing transparency, strengthening accountability, and ensuring Canadian supply chains reflect Canadians' values. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, member for Terranova, the Peninsulas.
Mr. Speaker, Port aux Basques and our Argentia ferries are critical to Newfoundland's economy. It supplies our food, medication, and everything else. However, the union's agreement ended in December. The unions have been fighting for a deal ever since. This Prime Minister was elected on the premise that he was supposed to be a great negotiator, the one to go against Trump, the savior in the Trump negotiations. Yet, we're 17 days away from a strike. So, is it that this Prime Minister is not able to make a deal or refuses to make it a priority?
Now, Minister's Job and Family.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And first, let me be clear, it's not the Prime Minister or the Government of Canada that's going to make a deal. In fact, it's the employer and the union. That's how labor relations work in this country. We do have a federal mediation service. Federal mediation service is with the parties. We urge the parties to continue to negotiate for a fair collective agreement, and we'll be there with all of the supports necessary to get that agreement in place.
Member for Terranova, the Peninsulas.
Mr. Speaker, I'm going to let that minister in a little secret. These ferries is a Crown corporation, a federal Crown corporation, and Canada has just entered into recession. Tourism businesses across this country are still having to pay off COVID debt. More small businesses in this country is closing than opening. Insolvencies are higher than since 2009. Nobody in Canada and in Newfoundland can afford this strike, including the union workers. So, will this federal Crown corporation and these Liberals take responsibility and get a fair deal for Marine Atlantic workers?
Now, member for Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, I think the president of the Crown Corporation might be a bit surprised if the Prime Minister showed up to negotiate their collective agreement. So instead, we'll do what we've done for centuries, Mr. Speaker. We'll let employers work with employees. We'll provide them with the support through the Federal Mediation Service so that they can negotiate these collective agreements, and we'll help make sure they get that over the finish line, Mr. Speaker. That's how labor negotiations are done in this country, with respect for employers and for unions, something this member ought to know.
Now, member for Neeson-Tecumseh-Gwillimbury.
Here we go again, Mr. Speaker. While 1 in 5 Canadians go hungry, the Prime Minister is somewhere over the Atlantic, tucking into another 3-course meal on the taxpayer's dime. In the last year, he spent nearly $1 million on luxury in-flight catering. And now he's on another trip, leaving behind countless Canadians wondering how they'll afford their next meal. When will this high-flying, fine-dining Prime Minister stop wasting taxpayer dollars so Canadians can eat again?
Now, Parliament Secretary, Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I have good news for the member opposite. Just yesterday, Canada announced the first ever national food security strategy with over $3 billion in investments. And investments that are strategic. They're smart investments in building regional supply chain capacity, ensuring we can have shorter and more resilient supply chains in Canada, that we can support independent grocers, that we can have more competition and bring down prices for the average Canadians. That's exactly what Canadians want to see. They want to see progress at the grocery store.
Now, member for Newton-Tecumseh-Gwillimbury.
Mr. Speaker, is that member picking up what I'm laying down? That strategy won't feed a single Canadian who can't afford groceries today because of Liberal policies that have put us into a recession. Maybe the Prime Minister would know if he wasn't so eager to flee the country and the people his policies are hurting the most. Instead of champagne wishes and caviar dreams in Paris, why doesn't the Prime Minister come home and face the 2.2 million Canadians lined up at the food banks?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I'm glad the member opposite, who I know has the hull in Martian, is writing a lot of fruit and vegetable growers that are growing great produce for Canadian and Ontarian families. I know that his riding and people in his riding would support a national food security strategy that invests in seasonal extension, that builds processing and distribution capacity in regions across Ontario and across Canada alike. That will improve our economy. That will improve competition. That will bring down grocery prices in the long term. These are the root causes of insecurity in Canada, and we're dealing with them.
The Honourable Member for Henri-Mercier. Happy Friday, Mr. Speaker. 1 in 4 Canadian youth aged 12 to 17 has been a victim of cyberbullying. Youth who are victimized online are 3 times more likely to report suicidal thoughts. Across the country, stakeholders are sounding the alarm. Can the Secretary of State for Children and Youth please tell the House what our government is doing to protect children from the very real harms that they face online?
The Secretary of the
Honourable Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my colleague for his question. Canadian parents are asking us to help protect their children on social media, and we've heard them. The social media bill will impose a minimum age of 16 with 3 strict requirements to protect children, act responsibly, and make certain content unavailable. We are taking action because our children deserve it. Thank you.
Member Dufferin-Caledon.
Luxury Normandy buttercups, beef tenderloin, braised beef with wine reduction, creme brulee, $95,000 worth of luxury meals on one flight, $1 million in the last 12 months. Meanwhile, a quarter of Canadians are food insecure. Surely there isn't a Liberal member who is going to stand up and justify that when 2.2 million Canadians go to an increasingly empty food bank every single month.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I would look to the Conservative parties to actually demonstrate genuine sympathy and capacity of coming up with ideas that will make a positive difference. The national food strategy that was announced yesterday is tangible. Unlike the Conservatives, as a government, we provide good ideas that will make a difference. The Conservatives continue to vote against them, Mr. Speaker, such as the National Food Program in our schools, which they called was garbage, Mr. Speaker. We will be there to have the backs of Canadians, contrary to the Conservatives.
The Honourable Member Dufferin-Caledon. Order.
This is the 11th time these Liberals have announced they're going to make food cheaper for Canadians. Forgive me if I don't believe a single word that these guys say. Another national program to do something, to deliver something, like the Housing Accelerator, which didn't accelerate anything except giving money to municipalities who actually didn't build more homes. If they want to get food affordability under control, they can cut the expensive things they've done, like increased cost of packaging, making fresh food more expensive with their plastics regulations. Why don't they cut their costly plans and taxes to make food affordable for Canadians?
Secretary to the Minister of Agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, stakeholders across Canada are saying that this $3.2 billion strategy on food security will make food affordable for Canadians, Mr. Speaker. There will be four key strategies. We will build local, regional infrastructure so that we have more option, more affordability. We will produce more. We will transfer more of our own food here in Canada. We will create more jobs, Mr. Speaker, and we will grow all year long fruit and vegetable.
The Honourable Member for Windsor-Tecumseh Lakeshore.
The Prime Minister promised Canadians strength and stability, but under his watch, Canada became the only G20 country in recession. That's the result of Liberal inflationary spending, red tape, and anti-development policies that have crushed workers, businesses, and families. Canadians deserve a Prime Minister who takes responsibility, not one who hides behind excuses. Will this Prime Minister admit his policies caused the crisis, or will he keep pretending Canadians are not struggling under his watch?
Parliament Secretary Minister of International Trade.
Speaker, if Conservatives ever wonder why Canadians don't trust them and elect them as government, it's unserious questions like this, and what we continue to see in this House is a great evidence of this. So, Speaker, as all Canadians know, we're living in some very challenging times. We're engaged in an unjustified trade war with the United States. There are wars that are going on in the world that has an impact not only on the Canadian economy, but the economy worldwide. But we're, Speaker, focused on building our economy by making sure that we are engaged in diversifying our trade. We will continue to do that work to create good-paying jobs for all Canadians.
Member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In South Shore St. Margaret's, every summer we see young people across our communities stepping into jobs, gaining confidence, gaining experiences and new skills, contributing to the local businesses and organizations that make our region so vibrant. This summer, the government has added an additional 25,000 jobs to the Canada Summer Jobs Program, giving the opportunity for 100,000 kids to gain hands-on experience. In my riding, over 300. Can the Minister of Jobs and Families please share how this program is helping communities? Thank you.
Minister for Jobs and Families.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and to that member for her hard work representing her constituency, which I've had the honor of visiting. In fact, many programs in her riding and indeed across Canada hire students for the summer through the Canada Summer Jobs Program, over 100,000 students this summer. And Mr. Speaker, this provides young people an opportunity with that work experience, quality work experience that they can add to their resumes, some earnings that they can use for their education. And Mr. Speaker, it also provides employers a source of new talent, something that many rural communities know is needed.
Member for Windsor West.
Mr. Speaker, as a cop, I was trained to ask questions when the facts didn't match the story. On Tuesday, the Prime Minister said the Gordie Howe Bridge was opening this weekend. And yesterday, he said Canada agreed to a delay at the request of the U.S. because of technical issues, apparently. When asked the question what the issue was, he had no answer. The bridge is built, the staff are in place. The people in Windsor have been patient for years. Now they're getting fed up and tired of this drama. So what is the real reason for this delay, and why won't this Liberal government be honest with Canadians who paid $6.4 billion US for this bridge?
Parliament Secretary Minister of Housing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to start by saying that the Gordie Howe International Bridge is a vital economic link between Canada and the United States. As we work towards an opening date, we are taking a collaborative approach, reflecting our shared ambition for this important trade corridor. As an entire team, we are committed to the timely opening of the bridge, and I hope the member opposite is ready to work with us to deliver on this important national infrastructure project as we take a Team Canada approach.
The honourable member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. The genocide in Gaza has claimed 70,000 lives, including those of 20,000 children. The humanitarian situation is dire. Infrastructure is in ruins. At the same time, life for Palestinians in East Jerusalem and the West Bank is becoming terrible. Illegal settlements are proliferating. Palestinian villages, homes, and farms are being destroyed regularly. And according to the UN, there are an average of 6 attacks per day against Palestinians in the West Bank. 6 per day. When will the Liberals take action and suspend our trade relations with the Netanyahu regime?
The
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I'd like to share the fact that Canada is taking concrete steps to support a durable, lasting peace between Israelis and Palestinians. We joined Australia and the UK to create a new international peace fund. Canada will be investing $2 million with its partners, and that money will go to civil society organizations that are trustworthy. This demonstrates our strong commitment to a two-state solution for Israelis and Palestinians who will be able to live in peace.
Mr. Speaker, New Democrats have been advocating for a Filipino cultural center in Metro Vancouver for many years. Our persistence resulted in the federal budget committing to fund this much-needed community resource. After the Lapu-Lapu tragedy, This centre is needed now more than ever. The Filipino-Canadian community contributes so much to our country. They deserve a place to call home. When will this government honour its promise and deliver the funds necessary to make the Filipino Cultural Centre a reality?
Hear, hear. Parliament Secretary, the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the timely question, as it is Filipino Heritage Month. As the member knows, we are making historic investments in infrastructure with the Build Community Strong Fund. We are investing from coast to coast to coast. We look forward to working alongside that member, working alongside communities so that we can build Canada strong.
Order, and that concludes question period for today. Routine proceedings, tabling of documents. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Standing Order 36.8a, I have the honour to table in both official languages the government's responses to 4 petitions. These returns will be tabled in an electronic format.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 32.2, I have the honour of tabling in an electronic format in both official languages the 2025-2026 annual report of the Office of the Veterans Ombud.
Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 32.2, I have the honour to table in both official languages the 2025-2026 annual report of the Office of the Taxpayers Ombudsperson entitled In Pursuit of Better Service, Taxpayers Deserve Better.